Hello, and thanks for joining me for this brief talk on bees versus bumblebees. And this was prompted because my wife and I were in Chillicothe, Ohio in the beginning of June at the Hopewell Culture National Historic Park. And out front of the park, they had some common milkweed planted. And side by side, one plant to the other, I was seeing both carpenter bees and bumblebees. So I thought I would do a comparison for you so you can tell them apart. Here you're seeing an image I took several years ago in Cape May, New Jersey of a carpenter bee. So as you can see, they look a lot like bumblebees. But let's talk about carpenter bees and then we'll look at the differences between the two. So here you can see a female carpenter bee with her well-developed mandibles can chew into wood. She will chew into wood half to an inch deep, and then she'll go down through the wood, usually between the annual rings, where it's a little bit softer, and she'll create a tunnel that might be 5-6 inches long. Eventually, at the end of that, she will place some pollen and lay an egg and seal that off with chewed fibers and create cells all along there, each one containing one of her offspring. Now, they can do a lot of damage. So if you would like more information, check out this website at Purdue University. But also feel free to contact me if you are interested in learning more about carpenter bees or you would like to know um, about carpenter bee control. I'll be happy to develop a talk on that. So let's look at a bumblebee. What is a bumblebee? Well, as you know, if you've been watching this or looking at this website, these are large, hairy bees. All bees are vegetarians, as are carpenter bees. They're a bee, so they feed on nectar, they feed their young pollen. Bumblebees tend to be large and hairy. They have a very hairy abdomen and they have the pollen basket. They're the only native North American bee with the pollen basket. It's a flattened area surrounded by hairs on their hind tibia where they can pack pollen, as you can see in this illustration. And this is an image from Chillicothe, Ohio on the common milkweed. You can't see the abdomen as well, but um, in a future image, you'll see it a little bit better. Now, honeybees, which are not native, also have this pollen basket, but they don't really look a lot like a bumblebee at all. So let's look at the carpenter bee. So carpenter bees also very large, pardon me, hairy, but on their abdomen, the upper abdomen, although there's some hair, it's not covered in hair like a bumblebee. It tends to be a little bit shiny, okay, as you can hopefully see in this image. Now, the hind leg in this image doesn't show up very well, but the hind leg tends to be pretty hairy, and they use those hairs to capture the pollen. Let me switch images here. And you can see, if you look at where that white arrow is, you can see on the tibia there's a lot of hair, and so they can capture pollen with that. A couple of last things that I would like to say. Carpenter bee here on the left, they are really important pollinators. In some environments, they're really important pollinators. So they're no less important, but they're solitary insects, right? The queen is by herself. She doesn't have the help of the colony like the bumblebee. And then lastly, on the bumblebee, I wanted to show this image showing the colored hairs on the abdomen, because as you know, many of the bumblebee species will have different colors on their abdomen, orange, black, as well as yellow, sometimes even white. So there you go. I'll close with this last slide. So here they are side by side. On the left is a carpenter bee, on the right is a bumblebee. Again, these were captured in the beginning of June. They were feeding not side by side, but one plant to the other. And I thank you for your interest. So hopefully that clears a few things up between carpenter bees and bumblebees, and I appreciate your interest. Thank you.